Hey, everybody, this is Larry Little.
And I'm Melissa Jackson.
And you're listening to RelationShifts and maybe listening to Melissa's stomach growl, who is with me today.
I apologize if it happens.
Growling stomach, right?
It's a deep sound.
Melissa, here we are. Maybe you're excited about March Madness. The week of March Madness is here. I'm so excited about it. Spring is just around the corner. And
my favorite season of the year.
I love it. Is it? That's your favorite?
It's my favorite.
I love it.
It's my favorite.
That's awesome. Well, I love it too. I love it because I love March Madness, if I were just to be honest with you.
I like spring flowers and that kind of thing.
Well, I'm gonna lock into that those basketball games and that tournament, and I'm gonna have a lot of fun filling out looking forward to filling out our brackets, and Robin will be getting her bracket, the champion, we'll just say, from last year. She'll try it again.
She has potential to win again.
I think she does.
There's history there now, and she was very scientific about it.
She's got to defend her title. She's got to defend her title, and there it is. And
you said that out loud.
I did, and she's got to do it. Which brings me to what we're talking about today, Melissa, which is kind of what we do when we defend ourselves, and what kind of defense. In March Madness, basketball teams play all kind of different defenses, 1-on-1, zone, 1-3-1, and we could go on. But defense is really important in March Madness. Defense wins ball games. I'm convinced of that, but let's get off on the wrong track. Let's come back to what we're supposed to be talking about, which is...
Well, we're tying it in. It comes to one lane here. We're talking about how turtles protect themselves.
That's right.
How do they protect themselves? What does it look like? And how can they be mindful of when to do that and when not to do that? How do they make some shifts and they can make some choices?
Turtles are really good at defense, sometimes too much so. When you overuse a strength.
It's not overt. It's not, in your face. No. It's not real clear. It's subtle.
You may not even know it if you're in a relationship with a turtle. You could definitely miss it.
You could definitely miss it if you're not real careful, if you don't tune in.
Yep. So what does that look like? Some of the things that today we want to talk about when these turtles, when they go into this defense mode, how, that can really turn into self-abandonment, not caring about yourself. It can be afraid of speaking up because they don't want to be seen as being histrionic or too dramatic, I guess is a better word. And they instead of drawing boundaries, they either draw boundaries that are too rigid that block everybody out, right? Or they're too pliable. Maybe they allow people to impede on their boundaries.
And we want to look at, turtles like peace and calm, but we want to make sure we're honing in today on avoiding kind of a short-term calmness for this long-term resentment. Because when we overuse that strength, when we overuse that behavior, it really can begin to deteriorate them as a person and the relationships that they have.
It's the deadly toxicity.
Silent.
It just goes. It goes silent, and it's deadly. So if when that happens, it kills a relationship. And the sad part about that is so many times the other person in the relationship, they don't have a clue.
That is the sad part. Very, very sad, because then, where it has gotten to a lot of times, so much damage has been done that turtle feels like it's just, you can't undo the damage. And then the other person, really doesn't get a shot at it because it's kind of done at that point. So we want to talk about, how do we really, if we know some turtles, if we are a turtle, how do we make some shifts? Let's give some stats so we can just kind of reaffirm some of that behavior. Here's a stat that I think is very interesting. 73% of people, which that's a huge number, 73%, they feel guilty when asserting boundaries. So if you're a turtle, there could be this tendency of, I can't really have boundaries in my life.
Yep.
Other people won't allow me to have boundaries in my life. They won't respect them, so therefore I can't have them.
Another word for that is people pleasing. I want to please. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't want anybody to be upset. So therefore I let them impede on my boundaries. I let them push me around. Let them. Another stat, which is really not that surprising to me, introverts are 3 times more likely to choose avoiding as their top conflict approach.
And you know what we mean by avoiding. It could be, I'm going to avoid that person, or maybe I'm going to avoid spending time with them because of the conversation they'll bring up.
Or I'm going to avoid the conversation. I'm going to avoid engaging. I'm going to not address conflict. And when I feel hurt, I'm going to avoid. And or when I get angry or when I get upset, instead of talking about it, I'm going to polarize or step back and avoid that conflict.
And here's another stat in the stats here. 60% say they use the silent treatment at some point. So a turtle may have a tendency to avoid, and they have a tendency in that avoidment, the silent treatment comes into play, where, I'm just not going to assert myself. I'm not going to engage myself. I'm going to avoid connection because it takes too much energy and it's going to make me too uncomfortable. And I don't want to have to say some things that I sure would like to say, but I can't say them. And so they may have a tendency to have that silent treatment.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating to others when that occurs, especially if you don't understand what the silent treatment is about, what it's even for, or even that it's needed. So what does that look like in real life, Melissa? What is it? What are some ways that we can say, okay, let's put some kind of meat on this bone? What does it look like?
The strengths of a turtle are so unique, and they're person oriented and they're relationship oriented because they're one-on-one person oriented. But when they overuse those strengths, obviously it hurts their relationships. So one of these real life examples is that they can have a tendency where they demonstrate or they act like everything's fine. You might pick up on some things. Well, something seems like there's a problem there. And you might ask them, you okay?
It's fine.
And the answer will be, it's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
Everything is fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
They present on this even keel, which is such a strength, but it also is detrimental because they're going to make everything fine when it's really not fine.
They're holding it. They're holding it in and putting it in their trash can beside their heart, or putting it in the trash can emotionally. And instead of emptying that or talking about it, they just keep stuffing it and stuffing it and stuff. The first thing it does immediately is cause confusion to those around you. You don't look fine. You're very quiet. Why aren't we connecting? It weakens connection, causes confusion, causes the other person to feel rejected and maybe not even understood. It's fine. It's fine. It's cold. That's what it is. It's cold, and we're putting up walls.
And I think a lot of times, turtles are so on an even keel that you may not know they're not fine because they do actually look like they're fine.
Right.
Their facial expressions are not necessarily different, and so you're seeing the cues that, well, they say they're fine. They look like they're fine. Well, they must be fine, and everything must be fine. But to that turtle who internalizes and processes internally, and that's where they do that work, you can miss it. You can really miss it.
You can miss it. Another thing that happens in this kind of, silent treatment defense mechanism is the silent sacrifice, which means they will agree to something even when they don't really want to do it because it's just easier. Boy, I've heard that. It's just easier than saying no. It's just easier. I'm not going to have an opinion because it's just easier to let you have your opinion and go with your opinion all the time rather than having conflict. And they convince themselves that it really doesn't matter. It does matter. It builds up. It builds up if I never get a say, if I never get to choose, if I never. Now, it's hard. That's a hard one, Melissa, because you can ask, well, what do you want to do? Well, whatever you want to do. What do you and so it can be confusing. It's really important that our turtles realize that sometimes saying no, I don't want to do that, is really important for the health of the relationship.
Well, if I put my feet into the turtle's shoes, they don't like conflict. They don't like, that takes a lot of energy. So I can see where, they just want to keep things calm. And so they are flexible. They are so agreeable and flexible. And so I can see where, this is a strength of theirs.
It is. It really is.
I can see also that there are probably times where they do that so much that they might feel a little invisible. They might feel like background noise. They might feel like,
Yep.
their opinions don't really matter.
Yep.
But coming from a good place where, they don't care to rock the boat. They don't really desire that.
Self-awareness, and they have to really know that sometimes they just have to step up. But, I always say, I love traveling with turtles. I mean, like if I'm going somewhere, I want to go with a turtle because they're flexible, they're laid back, they're easy. They really can just, and as long as, we make sure that they're getting to do some of the things that they want to do and kind of slow down enough for them to process that, and kind of, sometimes I'll even, give them a couple of options. Okay, now you have to choose one of these because it's your turn.
And
I want you to do, and just sit.
In silence for a while.
Just sit. Yeah.
So they can give an answer to.
Yeah. They don't mind silence. They kind of like it, and so it's fun to travel
like it
with them.
sometimes. Isn't that
nice? Yeah,
but for those turtles, it is so important as we think about breaking defenses. What protecting? When is it appropriate to protect, and when is it not? Turtles have to be careful with that sacrifice. They'll sacrifice themselves for other people. Beautiful gift that they bring to the table, but they have to be careful. Another real day life example.
Yeah, that sacrifice is good, but when it's overused, what it looks like is they try too hard to keep everything smooth. So what happens is they end up exhausted, and they end up isolating. They can even be a little snappy, turn into a snap, because they've held the garbage can is getting more full and more full and more full. Their emotional can, and they've not emptied it out by talking about it. They've not emptying it out by expressing how they really feel, and they carry that. And Melissa, I've seen this happen. They carry that stuff. They can carry it for years, but it builds up resentment. It builds up polarization of emotion, which means they hold their emotion in, and they don't connect in intimacy, or they don't connect in a relationship where it's authentic. It really hurts the authenticity of the relationship because they're keeping secrets that hurt them, but they haven't shared. And they're not allowing the other person the opportunity to make a decision on how they respond.
Say that again.
They don't allow the other person with the opportunity to make a decision of responding to their hurt or to their anger or to their frustration. They don't allow them to either fail or succeed. They just don't. They hold it in, and that causes resentment.
And that's a hard one. I've seen turtles that they work to get to the place where they do communicate, and they communicate to that other person, and that other person doesn't respond in their favor, and so they think, well, I tried that. I put myself out there. I tried that, and that didn't work. And so, turtles, they really have to learn that it is about them being able to have boundaries, about them being able to have a voice, no matter how that other person responds to them. I think their desire for relationships, their one-on-one, they value one-on-one relationships. They have important key relationships in their life. And so they want that, and it can get lost sometimes. Them being able to communicate how they feel, what they think about something is very dependent and connected to how the other person responds, which can be a little setup sometimes.
Really much. It is a setup. And what has to happen there is, let's say the person responds in a negative way or a way that the turtle doesn't want them to. That's not permission for the turtle to go in the shell. It's not permission just to take that garbage and stuff it in their garbage can by their heart. No. That's just an opportunity for them to address that issue with that person. Continue to address it. Stay engaged. Because you're always going to have something. You're always going to have, they're not always going to respond the way you want them. So when you get the negative response, turtle, it's not time to go in your shell. That's the time to be disciplined. We all have to have discipline in different areas of our life to continue the engagement, to continue to express that was an appropriate response. That response hurt me. I feel like you attacked me. To continue that conversation. Here's why. If we just keep stuffing it in our garbage can, if we just keep stuffing it in our garbage can, what happens? Well, garbage that is never emptied begins to stink. And that stink, that smell is what I'm talking about when I say toxicity in relationships. It looks like, pulling apart, not being able to talk, not being able to trust, not being able to relax, having resentment that turns to contempt. And that destroys a relationship.
So if you look at the turtle protection and when it's not, it's not good, it's not healthy, we can kind of put it in a metaphor of a turtle's protection. It looks like a dam, a pretty strong one that's been built over time. And so, when you have a dam, there is some calmness on one side of that where, the dam is holding up the pressure of the water and it presents calm to them. But then at the same time, a dam is definitely something that stops what's on the other side. It really, it's a force to be reckoned with.
Well, I think the secret there is you don't let that, continue to dam up. That water, it comes, it looks like it's, but what we need to do is create a spillway, create a way to you don't have to because if you let it, if a dam continues to build up, it's going to break. Eventually there'll be enough pressure to break the dam. And when that breaks, that looks like that turtle saying, I'm done, I'm over, and I'm out. And their partner or their person in their relationship with or whoever are going to go, what are you talking about? And we've operated this way for years and now and it's the dam is broke. So instead of in order to keep the dam from breaking, create spillways. Other words, let's talk about this.
So let's get some spillways, and we're going to term those as shifts. Ability to make some shifts, some little shifts. That spillway being something that you can do, that you can try, that's very manageable, so that these shifts do something for the relationship. They help you as a turtle, a very gifted turtle. So here are a couple of them. The first one is to shift from saying yes to small no's. We know turtles have a hard time saying no because they feel like it's going to impact the relationship. So being able to shift a little bit from saying yes to everything to some small no's.
Yeah, generally it's like, yeah, I can do that, or yeah, I can make that work. And really what you're feeling on the inside is that's too much. What you're feeling is I will be totally drained. This is going to, so instead of saying that, take a beat and go, I could do part of that, but I can't do this. And just getting in the mindset and the practice and the discipline of saying, I cannot do this. This is what I can do. Meeting the expectations of others is not the priority. Defining the expectations that you can meet of others is the priority, and being able to communicate that. I can meet this expectation. I can't meet this. And that is a wonderful, and then let that person own that part that you can't, that's theirs to own. What they expect of you that you can't meet. You've clearly communicated it. What they do with that is up to them, and then you'll respond based on how they respond.
And I love doing that. It gives that turtle the ability to say yes to some things.
Right.
They can say no also. So it's not an all or none thing. It's not me stepping into this as, I have to say yes to everything. I can set some parameters for that, and it can be healthy, which leads into the other shift from disappearing to setting boundaries with warmth. Okay, let's talk about the disappearing piece. That is a great word there for turtles.
It really
talk
is.
about that.
But, then they're masters at it. They can disappear.
Just fade off into the background.
Fade off into the background. They'll disappear emotionally. They'll disappear mentally. They'll disappear physically. They love to disappear, and they're good at it. I mean, especially in groups, they love to
I've
be
heard
the
it be
fly
called
on the wall.
fogging. Disappearing, whatever it may be called.
In a one-on-one conversation, they can fog by just kind of changing the not just talking about the issue and then ease on back. Yep, they'll ease out of that conversation, and instead of dealing with something that's difficult or a conflict, they just disappear and the room goes deadly quiet. And there needs to be conversation. There needs to be a hard conversation at times, and there is nothing. And so shift from that, from disappearing, shift to saying, that was hard. I need a minute to think about that. You know what? Let me have some time. Now, here's the key, though. Here's the key, the secret to this. That's just the first part that they need to do. They need to always say, but I'll come back in an hour, or I'll come back in a day. Give me, in other words, there needs to be a time. You're back to disappearing if you just saying, well, let me think about that. That's disappearing. No. I need some time to think about that. I'll get back with you in an hour.
That is so good. That is so good, because I think for the turtle, if they said, I'll come back to it, other things are going to take their attention, take precedent. Unintentionally, it might get off their radar while this other person is just waiting because they said they will come back. And that might be the first time they've ever done that. And this person's waiting, and then it just doesn't happen. And then that person creates a solution. So I think for the turtle, having the guts, having the strength, really putting themselves out there to come back, it would be powerful.
Yeah,
it'd be very helpful.
Once again, that word we're talking about is discipline. It really takes discipline to say, I need to step back, but I'm coming and to re-engage in an X amount of time. Make sure you frame it. Make sure you frame it with when you're coming back. It's really important. And
the last shift, to be able to shift from overprotecting. This is an interesting one. From overprotecting to letting people adjust. So this overprotection, I don't want to have conflict. And I don't even want to have a negative interaction. I don't want to have conflict. I don't want to do something and I might mess it up. I might, say the wrong thing. Yep. I might respond in a way that produces a reaction in someone else. So they get in this mindset of, I want to avoid all that. And, I'm going to kind of overprotect. I may not even give this person the opportunity to respond because I'm just not even going to put it out there. So in a tendency of, they might call it, I'm protecting the other person, but it really goes into the zone of this overprotection that's not good, not healthy.
Yeah, what's going on here is I'm owning something that's not mine to own. If I'm a turtle, I'm owning your response, and
your reaction, your behavior.
I shouldn't own that. I'm trying to protect. I'm trying to keep conflict down. I'm trying to get peace in the home. We see this a lot in dysfunctional homes as well, where one spouse may be trying to overprotect to keep peace in the home, in the atmosphere, and it really sounds noble, but it's really not. At the end of the day, it's really damaging because first of all, that person can't sustain that protecting. Overprotecting is exhausting. It absolutely drains the person trying to protect. And then generally that person, the turtle, will try to protect everybody that they're in a relationship with, which is just ridiculous. But it is because they don't want that negative vibe, that negative conflict. So they overprotect instead of saying, you know what, this is what I'm feeling. So how can we move forward in this? And that little phrase, this is what I'm feeling, or this is what I think, or, this is my opinion. Those are so powerful, those words. And to say that to someone, and then to say, now let's come to a compromise. Let's see what works for both of us. Let's those. It's just, I've seen it transform relationships when that turtle finds the courage, as you talked about, to say, this is what I'm feeling. You need to hear me. This is what I'm feeling. Now, how can we move forward for both of us? I've heard you, because turtles are great listeners. This is what I feel about that.
Which, like you said, it does take courage. It does take confidence. First off, to identify how you feel in the situation if you're a turtle. To really kind of own that. That's one thing. And then the next thing is to be able to verbalize that or communicate that, because it's important for you to have that voice. So that's, to me, something that, want to leave our turtles with. They can think about. How can they stop overprotecting in the situation in order to allow themselves to be able to come forward conversation that they need to have. So turtles need tools. They need tools in order to be able to do these things that we've talked about. They need to feel like they have a framework that they can go to, that they can respond out of, so that they can do these things that sound very difficult.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And one of the things turtles can do from time to time is just come from, out of nowhere. They can, bring things up that are just, you might go, where did that come from? Boy, that was kind of interesting or irrelevant. And as such, that brings us to the dad joke, because I want to close today with a dad joke. And, turtles can
This has been such a calm podcast that I've kind of enjoyed it. It's just been easygoing and calm. Well, and here it comes.
Sometimes turtles will surprise you, Melissa. Sometimes They will surprise you with a dad joke. So are you ready for this one?
Let's do it.
Are you ready? All right.
Brace yourself, turtles. Brace yourself.
So I've been waiting for this the whole
I
episode.
think he worked really hard on this one. He loves to go through his book and find just the right.
All right. So Melissa, how do you make holy water? How do you make holy water?
I don't know.
You burn the hell out of it. Oh my goodness, I could be in trouble for this one. If this makes it, if you're listening to this, then they let me keep it in the show. And I want to thank you. I hope it made you laugh and have a little bit of fun. And we love to have fun together. Thank you for listening to Relationships. Melissa is now, she's getting herself back together after that.
To my turtle place. I've retreated to my turtle place.
Oh, me. We hope you have found some nuggets that have helped you in your relationship with a turtle, or if you are a turtle, within a relationship with others. It means so much that you join us and that you trust us and that you listen. Thank you for that. We truly appreciate it. Thank you for making those relationships, those little shifts that make a big difference.
Little shifts that make a big difference. RelationShifts. Little shifts that make a big difference.